here we go. It's your old pal Emac coming to you with the one and only Gundacker as we get you ready to take on some Major League Baseball. Gundacker, it's been like a month. How's it been going?
It's been a while. It's usually just like me and Eric now. I get like one show a week with Eric, and I'm not complaining, but it's Eric. I'm just kidding. Shout out to Eric.
Does he do any voices for you?
I think he's hit me with like a random Mickey Mouse here and there, but it's mainly just him late reacting to my corny jokes.
Oh, well, see, this is good because now you and I will be anticipating the joke. So we're on a level playing field here, my friend. You may have to step up your game. But in the meantime, we're not going to screw around. We're going to go just over an hour on this show. We're going to cover every game today with the exception of the 2 p.m. game, which is not on the vast majority of the slates. Looking at you, FanDuel. Yahoo has done only 7 o'clock games today for their slate. DraftKings has a couple of slates, one locking at 4, one locking at 6, the main one locking at 7, and then there's only 2 late games. We also have a full day of college football. You'll be getting the college football DFS live before lock coming on after us with Matt Kajeski and Ben Rossa. They will be covering DFS picks, prop picks, etc. for the many games that are on today's slate. And then we also have a podcast put up by them each Wednesday, Betting You. They're one of the sponsors of our show here, along with Jock Market. You have the Betting You podcast is on its own podcast feed out there. It's also available on the Awesemo YouTube channel. They will cover everything college football as they take you through each conference and the best bets that are on the board. Betting You is available now wherever you get your podcast feed. The other thing you're going to want to do on the Betting You podcast, you're going to want to listen to those early, meaning when it comes out on Wednesday, because you're going to get the best lines then. And these guys already know their stuff. So by the time they've read the room, figured out what's going on, and the books are having to deal with, and the many new books are having to deal with, 300 teams in action, they are able to find some good ways that you can take advantage of said gamesmanship. All right, Gundacker, let's take a peek here at our early slate. This one is going, as I mentioned, we're going to do the 6 games starting with Texas at Oakland. Should be an interesting one here. You have Colby Allard, who is coming off 5 straight games of multi-home runs, 2 in each. He is allowing 2.02 home runs per 9 on the season. And then on the other side, you have Mr. Irvin, who does not strike out a lot of players. We can find our moments to go against him. Are we riding with him against the Texas Rangers?
Against the Athletics, probably not. Allard doesn't really give us a lot of strikeout potential. 18% strikeout rate this year to righties, 22% to lefties. Athletics, really, generally speaking, don't strike out to begin with. So I'm probably not going to tempt fate here. I'd be more inclined to get behind some Athletics bats. They have an implied run total of 5. Oakland, rare day game. It's still projected to be in the 60 degrees, but maybe the air is a little bit more freeing for those fly balls. Allard has a 41.5% fly ball rate to righties, 43% to lefties, but an elevated xFIP to both sides of the plate. So it's a really good spot for the Athletics through and through. Just metrically, Josh Harrison kind of sticks out to me. Even more so on FanDuel at 2,800, but 4,600 is just fine on DraftKings. Been in that leadoff spot. Charlie Marte, 5,700. You got to go up there and get him, but he'll swipe a bag with the best of them. There's really not a bat in this Athletics lineup that I wouldn't get behind. It would be a fun spot for Chris Davis to get into one at 3,300, taking advantage of that lefty split. So no Allard for me. Probably no Cole Irvin either.
Is this a remember me game for Chris Davis?
It just might be. He does have a good historical splits against the Rangers.
And they had him for a hot minute this year. He never really saw the field, but I believe he was at least on the team or at least on their injured reserve. I remember mentally making a note that at some point I was going to be able to make a Chris Davis started his career with Texas. That would be Chris with the C Davis. And Chris Davis then ended his career with the Rangers, but Chris with the K Davis did not. Hook me up on that one. Moving on to our next game here, we have Toronto at Baltimore. This is game one of a doubleheader. Because we are going so early, there is really no agreement on who is going to be the pitchers for these games. For Toronto, that's probably going to be Hyun-Jin Ryu. Ross Stripling is also up on deck as well. And then for Baltimore, does it really matter? No. I think we're okay looking at some of the Toronto bats. They will at least get, as the away team, get a chance for those extra at-bats, even with the 2-inning limitation on this game. They would be your differentiation plays. Outside of that, not much to really bring in on this one. Any strategy or anything that stands out on a game where we're losing 2/9 of it?
Yeah, I mean, it's just maybe we get some discounted pricing on both sides here. Blue Jays are generally a bunch of 5K plus bats. So if you lose an implied at bat, so be it, I guess. I'll take my shot against Keegan Aiken in 3 rounds. George Springer, Semien, Vladdy Jr. I mean, you don't need me to list off the Blue Jays. They all look pretty juicy against a contact righty with a power problem to righties as well. So I think, I'll let the field maybe walk backwards on losing the extra 2 innings, but the Blue Jays are just an explosive offense. And then for a guy like Hyun-Jin Ryu, pitchers can sometimes get you a cheap, complete game. Yesterday, Robbie Ray didn't quite go the length that many of us rostered him to do. Ryu's hit 6+ innings in 3 of his last 5 outings. There's a shot he can steal a 7-inning complete game, perhaps a CGSO, a little cheapy, but it still counts for fantasy points. So I don't mind putting him into my lineup in this spot.
All right, on to the next game here. Colorado at Philadelphia. This is an interesting one here. You've got Zach Wheeler, who has been a little sketchy over his last 10 or so games. His season-long numbers are excellent still. For a long time, he was on that short list or on the fringe of the conversation for the National League Cy Young Award. I don't know that he's continuing to be in that mix right now. However, he does get to go against the Colorado Rockies, who are one of the worst teams on the road, which should be no surprise, but they're also one of the worst teams against right-handed hurlers. Now, this is also by looking at the advanced metrics, including weighted WRC plus, which is weighted run, or WRC plus, which is weighted runs created plus. What that does is it neutralizes park factors and a few other variables and tries to find a scoring efficiency baseline of 100, and it assigns that to the league. So if you have, like we do tonight, the Houston Astros with a 123 WRC plus against lefties, that means they score 23% runs more efficiently than the league average. Just how good are they? Well, they're the next 3 best teams, the White Sox, Toronto Blue Jays, and Yankees, are all at 110. So that's the elite of the elite. On the flip side, we have a team like the Rockies, who is down. I haven't pulled their numbers recently, but it's usually in the upper 70s or barely touching 80, 81. And again, that neutralizes the fact that they are not in Coors Field. So it's not this makes sense. It's saying, no, we're giving you credit for those runs proportionally. Now, how are you against league average? And they're still that dismal. Are you ready to go to Zach Wheeler on our afternoon slate?
Yeah, and the number I pulled yesterday, I believe, had a 76 WRC plus against righties for the Rockies. So it lines up really, really well for Zach Wheeler. The last game looked a lot more encouraging. He's a guy we can pretty much trust for 100 pitches. That top of the NL East is a scrap fest, and you got to win the games you're supposed to win. Philly's supposed to win this one, and you got to believe they're going to be looking at Zach Wheeler to get 6+ innings. And that's something, even in this stretch of maybe less than favorable outcomes, he's still been giving you 6+ innings. So I kind of like that as a good floor, maybe a stronger shot at picking up that quality start bonus on FanDuel. But yeah, this is a weak implied Rockies offense, and Wheeler has about the most upside you could ask for on this slate. There are some alternatives here, and maybe he falls south of maybe a Corbin Burns, somebody like that. But yeah, there's definitely a range of outcomes that Wheeler's an optimal top 2 optimal pitcher, probably 30 to 40% of the time on this slate. It's a short enough slate for that to happen.
All right, that definitely makes sense. How are you feeling about Freeland on the other side? He had some moments there, and then in his last game allowed 4 home runs to the Giants, who somehow are leading the league in home runs. this season. It's fun to kind of look at where the totals are, because in DFS, oftentimes we are just focused on day to day, which, wait for it, we should be. It's daily fantasy sports, but we lose sight of who's winning and how our team's doing, and what is good for fantasy is not always good for regular baseball. But you have the Giants leading the league in home runs. You have the Tampa Bay Rays. We'll talk about them in a moment. They're leading the league in runs scored. They have 20 more runs scored than anybody else in the league. Who would have thought that was going to be the case at the beginning of the season? And they are just crushing the AL East there. But back to this, you want to pick on Freeland with anybody or with everybody?
Yeah, he still has. So if you take him out of Coors Field, he's still giving up almost a 1.5 overall home run per 9. And there are some lefty smashers on this Phillies lineup. You can give me Real Muto. We've seen him lead off against lefties, and getting a leadoff catcher is a pretty juicy thing to accomplish. But Segura, McCutchen, who's really got a positive split against lefties, and then Harper can hit anybody. I'm kind of disappointed. Usually if Kyle Freeland's on a slate, it means me and Greg are doing a show. So shout out to Greg. But I would say that the quick answer is probably no. I'm not really there on Freeland, and I'd be interested in buying in on some of these Phillies. They have a lot of green next to their name against your average left-handed pitching.
And I think that's definitely going to be the way to go. Freeland, of course, just shy of a 5 ERA on the season, someone that we can pick against. And then again, back to Wheeler. Just phenomenal. The top 10 in wins, ERA, whip, and strikeouts. Again, struggling a little bit, but I think this is a get right spot for him today. Moving on to our next one here, and again, we're going to keep the pace up. We have 7 hours of live content after us today. We've got NASCAR. We have 3 NFL shows. We have MLB Live before lock, and I believe I'm missing one in there. Oh, college football, which is up next. I'm not missing it. I'm going to be watching it. We have college football projections this season. They are phenomenal. We have a lot of good stuff here for NFL. We'll talk about our NFL product in just a minute, but definitely subscribe and like the Awesemo YouTube channel. We also have 2 other channels where we're putting out a lot of content. We have Awesemo Odds over there on YouTube, and then we have the Awesemo Fantasy Football channel, where we're covering a lot of the season-long stuff and some of the weekday strategies. Check that out over there. You can find any of those on YouTube by searching Awesemo, and then subscribe, hit that notification bell, and know when we go live. We have 8.5 hours of live content tomorrow. We have almost 9 today, and then both days we have another almost 2.5 in videos on demand. Check this out. We are going nonstop here at Awesemo. The next game up here, the Milwaukee Brewers going into Cleveland, taking on the Tribe here. We have Burns on the bump. He has been phenomenal this season. Top 3 in ERA, whip, and strikeouts per 9. He is going against the Cleveland team, but he is going to have to face the DH instead of the pitcher today. Is that going to dissuade you at all from going against Cleveland, who has a 3.6 implied run total? And how interested are you in some Guardians swag, shall we say? I'm curious to see what they come up with on this, and what they have to pay the real Cleveland Guardians, the men's roller derby team that has the same name at the moment.
So oops. I saw the mock-up for the logo, and it didn't really look like anything I would probably don, but I'll be honest, EMAC, it's kind of blasphemy for me to put any other Yankee or any other logo on my head than a Yankee. So I'm probably not super interested. I will say that we did get a first run of our top pitchers tool and top stacks tool up. So now we have an idea of what we might expect ownership wise. And the question was, do we get to Corbin Burns with confidence? Well, he is projected to be the second highest owned pitcher as of now, right behind Zach Wheeler at 55%. We got him at a 48.5% chance to being a top 2 pitcher on the slate, which is 14% above the top 2 pitcher percentage that we've put probability wise on Zach Wheeler. So yeah, he's owned over his percentage here, but I think in the grand scheme of this slate, like there's a reasonable range of outcome where I land on up to 70%. And I think this Indians team, even with the DH, is still a two-man show. Jose Ramirez, Franmil Reyes, are they going to hit one over the wall? If not, you could probably have a solid day when it comes to run prevention, and the strikeout rates are still really, really high. So I'm there on Corbin Burns. I think as we get towards the final stretch of the season, this final couple of starts, the Brewers and the White Sox are teams I'm kind of watching to maybe not so secretly kind of bubble wrapped their pitchers for the postseason. 86, 93, 97, 89 pitches out of Burns his last couple starts. So maybe he has less bullets to throw than Wheeler, who is playing in more meaningful games, but he's pretty efficient for the most part. A couple walks here and there, but he has, in the grand scheme of this slate, a ginormous chance to be in a top 2 pitcher, literally the best chance of being a top, the top pitcher. So the DH is not going to scare me away here. I'm going to be pretty aggressive on Burns, and 25 DKP might be the nuts on this slate.
All right, let's talk a little bit about Zach Plesac. Bit of an uneven season for him. Had a really rough, April. He had 2 different games where he allowed 6 earned runs. In May, he had 2 games where he allowed 5 earned runs. Calmed down a little bit there in July. Had a reasonably good month, but then seemingly has fallen off just a little bit once again. It's more the inconsistency. He's up to 119 innings this season. That's the most he's had since 2 years ago when he had 115. Remember, last year was the pandemic shortened season. How can we forget? We're still living in the stupid pandemic. But this is something where perhaps he is kind of hitting the proverbial wall at this point. Is he someone that interests you? Gives up a little bit more power than we would like to see. Generally has decent control, but the strikeouts come and go.
I'm probably not there. One thing to watch about this game, really for both pitchers, but more so on the Plesac side, who does pitch more to contact, is we do have a little bit of wind projected going to right field. So maybe the lefty pull hitters will get into some a little bit more, and they do have plenty of lefties in this Brewers lineup. Yesterday, we saw Eduardo Escobar hit a pair. I think Plesac's good games have really correlated with a strength of schedule or lack thereof, right? The Kansas City Royals, Detroit Tigers, teams like that are bad enough that every now and then you're popping up with a huge game for somebody on the other side. And Plesac was a beneficiary of that. Generally speaking, I'm going to avoid him. He's got a 4.71 xFIP to lefties this season, 4.56 to righties, and he allows a lot of power to righties. So Avi Garcia might project well. And you mentioned, Corbin Burns pitching against the DH. The Brewers pick up the DH. And if yesterday was an indication, the guy that benefits there is Daniel Vogelbach, and he's an extremely cheap power bat at 2K on DraftKings. Might be one of the most streamlined ways to go ahead and relieve your salary a little bit if you are going double aces with Wheeler and Burns. Pocket ace lineups will probably feature a lot of Vogelbach. So I probably don't have a ton of interest because it is a shortened slate. Like, maybe there's a case to get to a little bit. We have him at an 8.5% chance to be a top 2 pitcher versus 1% ownership. So yeah, there's some leverage to have without surrendering a lot of equity, but it doesn't give you the warm and fuzzies.
All right, let's move on to the next one. This one, we don't really have a starting pitcher yet. I say that I'm seeing some conflicting stuff for Tampa Bay. We've got Chris Archer on some sites, including ESPN.com. And then we have Luis Patino on the MLB starting pitchers page, which usually is the official one. They take forever to update from time to time, but they're not afraid to leave it blank until the team actually says something. The DFS sites usually will jump the gun on this. So I'm not sure who we're going to get. If we get Luis, I think he is someone to definitely consider in this matchup. Archer is a shell of himself. Ever since he was dealt away, I've lost track of the years, 2.5 seasons ago when he went to Pittsburgh and was just having an injury-riddled season. That seems to have continued. He was a dominant strikeout pitcher at one point in time, allowed a little too much contact, a little too much power, a few too many walks, but he would make up for that with his amazing strikeout stuff. That's no longer there. So if he's on the mound, I don't want to go to him. I'm not really crazy about Detroit either way, but if it's Luis, I want to look to him. Do you have any more? Have you read any blurbs or any news that would indicate it is Archer?
Yeah, I've got Archer. Mark Tompkins, his beat writer for the Rays, has Archer. Okay. Archer was expected to piggyback off of Michael Wacha yesterday, but Shane McClanahan has to take a trip to the IL, so they're going to pull Archer into the starting pitcher role. The one question you would have with Archer is the bullets, the amount of pitches he might be able to get through. Last couple of games, 78. He did hit 78 against Minnesota. So I guess the general rule is +10, +15. So maybe he can stretch to 90. but you don't feel like it's super high quality pitches. But the Tigers, we mentioned, Plesac was one of those guys who was able to benefit against a soft matchup. Well, the Tigers have been that matchup really, really bad against righties. So maybe Archer does break through for a solid performance. He comes in at
8,000 on DK, 72 on FanDuel, and he's Yahoo is just doing the 7:00 slate, so he's not there.
Yeah, he does have some strikeout rates, but a lot of strikeout rates when you're coming out of the bullpen in short spurts are pretty inflated because you're generally lined up for the best lanes and you get to put more into the pitches you are throwing. But he does have overall a 30% K rate against righties, but home runs have been a problem for him. 169 to lefties and 1.8 to righties. The Pirates are the Pirates. It's PNC Park. We're not going to be excited, or not the Pirates. The Tigers are the Tigers. It's Comerica Park. We're not going to be excited to play the Tigers, but it does line up for a couple of them to maybe get into one. Akil Baddoo and Miguel Cabrera are probably the two I'd be looking at.
Okay. That makes sense. Baddoo, kind of an interesting one. And then on the other side, we have Casey Miz here. The interesting thing with what the Detroit Tigers are doing is they're not really shutting down him. They're not really shutting down Tariq Skubal. What they're doing is they're extending the days between the starts, and they're not really pushing them. So in the last start for Casey, he had 34 pitches. Prior to that, 79, 76, 88, 85. So the point being is, even though the price seems okay, Tampa Bay is a tough matchup, but I do want to point out that when you see him, and especially when you see Skubal, they're going to get pulled if they start to struggle. This is just more about getting them in the routine of making the extra starts, sort of going in those motions, just getting used to what it feels like when you've pitched more innings than you ever have. But there's no reason to push them beyond that, other than to just say, "Yep, you got it today," or "Nope, you don't." Enjoy sitting the rest of the game next to the manager on the bench or the pitching coach and just kind of strategize for what's going on forward. So just keep that in mind there, because it means we could be getting to a Detroit bullpen. That is one we do want to see, the soft underbelly of the Tigers here. How are you feeling about the Rays, and how the hell are they leading the league by 20 runs? Even though they're in Tropicana Field for half their games. And then the Giants leading the league in home runs, and half their games are in Pac Bell. What is it? Where are we? Oracle Park.
Pac Bell. Holy. Oh, man.
Wait, I almost said Candlestick. I could have.
Yeah, I guess it could have been worse. Yeah, man, Rays look like a really, really solid stack to get to here. In our top stack tool, we have them as a 12% chance of being the top stack. That's about where we got them owned. To put that in context, the two teams we have projected to be a better stack, or at least a top stack at a higher probability, are the Blue Jays and the Brewers. But yeah, you mentioned it. Casey Mize, AJ Hinch has got among an innings limit. They're watching that. So 3 or 4 might be the expectation almost daily. And the Rays are one of the toughest lineups to pitch against right now. I'm very, very bullish on the Rays stack on this slate. I do think you mentioned that bullpen is something that I can pick on with confidence, with glee. It's just a matter of what this Rays lineup comes out as. They do have a tendency to look a little different day to day. If you get a contact pitcher against Mike Zunino, he is an absolute beast. It does look like we could have some wind inward here, which might steal some more homers in a park that generally is kind of neutral depending on the time of year. But I think this team is too talented to not go out there and get several shares of. I would say the pushback here, EMAC, is if you're trying to make a Zach Wheeler, Corbin Burns lineup, feels like it's going to be a little difficult to get your 5K Laus, your 5K Cruzes, 5K Austin Meadows, guys like that. And the doubleheader 7-inning games giving us a discounted Blue Jay stack is kind of making that the way that I think the average lineup goes. And that's what we have shown in our ownership projection so far.
All right, one more game to go here on our afternoon/early evening slate. This one is going to be the Washington Nationals going into Pittsburgh, taking on Will Crow, former National. He was actually part of the deal that brought Josh Bell back into Washington here. Obviously, Bell was the centerpiece of that deal. At this point, it seems that Crow is probably more of a glorified opener than anything else. He's closed out the 5th inning just once in his last 6 starts. He generally doesn't go beyond the fifth inning, even if he does manage to get there. In his last 6 starts, he's gone 25 in the third innings with a 7.46 ERA, 2.84 home runs allowed per 9. Obviously, we want to go with Juan Soto and the aforementioned Josh Bell. The next 2 best options for the Nationals are probably Lane Thomas and Yadiel Hernandez. So when you say, who are these guys? I've got Nationals hats. I got Nationals hats all over the place. And I'm saying, who are these guys myself? But Thomas, recent acquisition here, he's kind of their leadoff hitter. He's sort of pesky. They're just going to leave him out there. He's got a good chance on the road of getting 5 plate appearances in this game. And then Yadiel Hernandez, we saw him getting some cleanup duty there as they're basically letting Ryan Zimmerman out to pasture and when Juan Soto was hurt. But he's not a horrible play. They're both discounted. I wouldn't really want to go beyond those guys, but those are the 2 guys that are going to allow you to get that Burns Wheeler combination. What do you like from this game? And let's see, who's the Nationals pitcher?
Josiah Gray.
How do you feel about? Let's hit Gray. He came back in the Trey Turner Max Scherzer deal. Looked okay his first couple starts. I had thought they may not pitch him. They've said they're gonna pitch him now, but he's another guy they're not gonna push. Gives up a boatload of home runs, but generally keeps the bases clean. What are your reads on how bad is Will Crow? And do we dabble with the little Josiah Gray going against the Pittsburgh Pirates, who are like a rich poor man's Colorado Rockies, I guess?
Yeah, they're basically the Rockies on the road, except at home in PNC Park. Josiah Gray, when I was researching him when he first got called up, seemed like he had extreme strikeout potential, but also had command issues. He's been able to keep the walk rate under 10% to both sides of the plate. But there are games where we've seen him walk as much as 3, sometimes 4 in those last 10 games. However, this is the Pirates. So like I'm going to be able to push back against that just a little bit and lean on the strikeout rates a little bit more. I think past Corbin Burns, Zach Wheeler, Josiah Gray is probably going to be your most popular pitcher. Well, maybe we got him as the 4th owned, but the 3rd most likely to be a top 2 scoring pitcher. And I think that's a catalyst of his really, really high strikeout propensity. 26% carried to lefties so far, almost 25% to righties. The Pirates, we think of them as a bad team that don't strike out, but this projected lineup I have right now, only Kevin Newman has a sub 20% carry, and there's several 1 and 4s. Colin Moran, Sasugo, Anthony Alford, Will Crow, if you get into that pitcher spot a couple times. So there are some implied strikeouts to be had. That fly ball rate is a problem, and that has correlated with his home run to fly ball rate being ridiculously high, over 2 almost a 3 home run per 9 to both sides of the plate. But on the road, that's come down to 1.5. And against the Pirates, I'm willing to gamble here. So yeah, you might check off a couple Pirates for some power. Colin Moran would be a guy that I don't hate. Brian Reynolds, somebody like that. But for the most part, I'm kind of in agreement with Josiah Gray being the most likely guy outside of Burns or Wheeler to be a top scoring pitcher. So I'm going to have to lean on Gray. And this might be the guy that I lean on more as an SB2 for some of those Ray stacks that are going to cost me, over $5K per. So I do like Gray. I think generally against an average to average plus team, he does have risk because of his home run problem, but I'm going to neutralize that because of the Pirates in PNC Park.
And that definitely makes sense. All right, so that closes out the first slate. We're going to hit the 8-game main slate here. We're doing relatively well on time. We got about, I think 30 minutes or so to get through this. Let's answer a couple questions here in chat. Yes, I am glad to be back. Glad you guys are happy to see me, at least some of you. It's a nice little 3-week break there as I was traveling through Alaska and then up and down the West Coast, visiting family and such in a few states where I could not play DFS, but I was doing a few lineups via my phone. It's not fun to play DFS when you have a laptop and that's it. Dodgy internet because we were in Anchorage and our Airbnb did not have the best internet. We couldn't even really do our hotspots on our phones because we were outside the city enough. So I did not really do much MME, but I did hand build some lineups, mucked around a little bit on some of the smaller sites. I see some people asking there about, can you make money in baseball? The answer is yes, and there are a variety of ways to do it. I see it's Arcatelza. He is a stalwart in many of our shows. He's often in our chats. It kind of depends what you want to do and which site you play on. If I was playing on FanDuel, I would not really focus on the big contests. I would focus more on the 100-mans. They pump out 100-person leagues constantly. I would play the 10, 20, and 100-mans, and I would enter a bunch of them, and I would play it just like it's a GPP. And I would create it as if I was in one tournament, because if you get a 1% lineup there, you're going to get first or second in those 100-mans. If you get a 1% lineup in the giant tournaments, you're probably going to 4x your buy-in. Which would you rather do, 20x or 4x? Okay. At the end of the day, I'd rather have the 20x. I see we're mentioning Yahoo. Yahoo doesn't have a lot of content for it, for MLB. Yahoo also does every start time with the remainder of the slate. Most of the big volume guys don't really play there for baseball because the prize pools aren't big enough. They will be for football, but for baseball, they really don't. And you can find tournaments that go off essentially rake free. First off, their rake there is generally lower. It's usually in the 12% range, which is their, I forget, they call it contest fees or whatever that is, but that's the amount that the sites take out for servicing the contest for us and holding the money and doing all that fun stuff. But Yahoo's a unique thing. It's very different pricing, but I do, as part of the daily article that we do free in front of the paywall, top spotlight pitchers and top stacks, I always do a Yahoo stack of the day for their 7:00 games. And what I do there is I call out just different things that you can utilize and how to target pitchers and players there. It's a good way to get a little bit of an edge. And then, of course, on DK, for those, I try to stay in the low contests, like the quarter contests, occasionally get in the $1.20 max and those. And then I just play those again like it's one big giant GPP. And I get in some boosters. So it allows me to get and across the board, I'll play 200, 300 lineups in that across 600 entries for about $200. And it allows me to get a nice mix of upside as well as compete against people that generally may not have optimizers like we do. So it's a way to get a little bit of an edge. There are still good players in all of those contests. There are no gimmies anymore, as we are now 11 years into DFS. However, they are easier, and the payout structures doing it that way are not quite as top heavy. You can stretch your dollar. So I would look at those, and you want to look at the new sites like Jock Market. So Jock Market is sponsoring our show today. Get a nice little bonus. If you put in $50, use the promo code Awesemo, they'll match you $50, dollar for dollar up to your first 50. So what you want to do is look at these sites like Yahoo. Everybody knows Yahoo, but nobody has content for Yahoo. Well, nobody does content for Jock Market. We do. We have some projections. We have the opening bid projections. Opening bid, Emac. What are you talking about? Jock Market, stock market. Wait, the players are like investments? Absolutely, they are. So basically, they've turned fantasy sports into a stock exchange. So you don't have to wait till the end of the game to make your money. You can buy and sell your players in real time for real money with guaranteed payouts for whatever you have at the end of the night if you don't cash out earlier in the contest. They have markets, of course, for MLB, PGA. They're lining up for NFL. They've got NBA on tap and NHL. You guys know that we found some soft spots there, and there's not a lot of content out there. So you have a fighting chance because you're not going against those 150 maxers. So the key thing you do is you can buy stuff in pregame IPOs, pick up your favorite players through the bid process, or you can get them during the game. You can buy and sell again during the game or hold till the end. Basically, however the player is performing creates a market. So if they're doing well, their price goes up. If you think they're going to continue going well, grab them. Or if you get a pitcher that allows 2 home runs in the first inning and the name is Max Scherzer, buy the dip because there's still a great chance they're going to end up just allowing 3 or 4 total runs and getting double-digit strikeouts. So you're applying your DFS knowledge in real time. It's a fun way to muck around. They have a nice little app. You can do it while you're just watching the games on the phones, and it's really, really fun for baseball. And we are 1 month away from baseball, for basketball, and we are 1 month away, I guess technically 5 weeks away from basketball. The world is our oyster, Gundacker. The world is our oyster. But that's Jock Market, promo code Awesemo. They'll match you up to your first $50 in a deposit bonus. We are on to the main slate. I'm turning it back over to you. The Kansas City Royals, the Minnesota Twins. You want some bargain pitchers on DraftKings? $6,000 and $5,600 for this less than dynamic duo. Lead us off with the pitchers, and then you can bring the hammer with the hitters against them.
Yeah, so I think we should preface every pitcher discussion with this fact about the main slate. The fact is, Charlie Morton is projected at 62% ownership. So any pitcher we discuss right now, we really want to microscope the potential range of outcome of them being a pivot to that 62% ownership, or their potential to put up similar or better numbers than Morton. Morton, of course, has a massive matchup, and the pitchers in this game are just not really all that great in pedigree. Brady Singer, 6K on DraftKings. He's got a 19% K rate to righties, a 24% K rate to lefties. The swing and strike rate sitting about 10%. The whip way higher than you would like it. And then Michael Pineda, the price point on him is dirt cheap. I've got 5,400 on him. That's almost opener level pricing. 2.2 innings his last two games. I guess less than 50 pitches in those two games. So maybe he is more of an opener than anything else. He's coming back from an oblique strain, and maybe he's going to build up on that. This is a completely done for the year Twins team, so I can't imagine they're pushing him too far. So I would probably not have any Pineda interest. We have him as the lowest owned pitcher on the slate and one of the lowest percentage of chance to be a top pitcher. So I'm going to go ahead and X him out, and Singer would be the question mark. Is there enough strikeouts in this Twins lineup for Singer to be a viable option? I think the K rate to the lefties is at least intriguing, but the ground ball rate being elevated makes you wonder, like maybe I wouldn't have 0 at 6%, put him at an SP2, hope for 15 plus, but it's definitely not a warm and fuzzy click. We have him at an 8% chance of being a top 2 pitcher. That's about right where his ownership is, 7.5%. So maybe I matched the field because, less than 10% equity is still not much on a slate this consolidated. So no warm and fuzzy. If I do want to pick on either of these pitchers individually, I like lefties against Pineda. He's got a 1.7 homer per 9 against lefties. Andrew Benintendi hit a pair of bombs yesterday. Maybe his swing is clicking. And then every day, Alberto Mondesi looks pretty good to me, and it feels like it fails. But I'm at the slot machine, EMAC. I got to keep pumping quarters because Edith is not taking my Mondesi game. And then on the twin side, Singer doesn't really suffer from a lot of power. He gives up more average than anything. So I guess if Buxton reached, go for it. But they priced him to the gills at 5,700. Same with Jorge Polanco. You're just not getting a good deal on anyone on this Twins team like you were maybe a week ago, 2 weeks ago. So it's pretty safe to maybe go the other way on them. The curious thing about Minnesota for me is our top stack pool has them as the best stack on the slate. And I just don't know how, I guess price-wise, how that's really, really viable more than it's not. I guess pitching isn't that expensive. So for the most part, you don't have to overpay there, but I don't know. The top stack tool likes them quite a bit, and then the ownership on them is at 3%. So if we got them at 10% top stack percentage with a 6% ownership, there is still some leverage to be had. So maybe I trust the tool more than me.
All right. The only word of caution I have in all of that is I think we want to stay away from Adalberto Mondesi. Now, here's the main reason. He's been dealing with a myriad of injuries. Now, I know everybody loves to is it myriad injuries like Laffy says, or is it a myriad of injuries? It actually is both. Depends if you're utilizing it as a verb or an adverb or adjective. Sorry, my mom's an English teacher. You'd think I'd know all of these things, but it's like saying a many or a lot or lot, right? It just depends on the content or consistency of the sentence. But he's not stealing bases. He's been abysmal at the plate. And even at the beginning of the year, I think it was an elbow injury he was dealing with. He's been batting at the bottom of the order. So it just makes me nervous. Now, he's a guy who's led the league in stolen bases, and I think he's a phenomenal option. And he has that nice combination of power and speed. I just think it's sort of a differentiation play by just not playing him this at this point in the season, similar to Christian Yelich, where
EMAC.
Yes, go ahead.
While you were in Alaska.
Oh no, what happened?
Click Adalberto Mondesi's game log.
But we don't look at game logs.
I mean, he's stealing bases.
Is he again? Oh, all right. So I'm a little off on that one.
He's striking out. That's the problem.
Striking out is not great. I'm looking at that. All right. So I'm not horrible, but similar to this is your sort of differentiation point. So to finish off that thought, he has a great past track record. He's a phenomenal player, one of the top 20 in baseball when healthy. Absolutely. Not taking anything away from that. But we've got like similar issues with Christian Yelich this year, who was the 2018 NL MVP. And then you have same thing with Cody Bellinger, who was the 2019 NL MVP. I'm just seeing some players where something is amiss this year. They're getting weighted for past performance. It's not great this year. Next year, I'm going to have a different answer. I'm going to give them credit because I'm hoping they're healthy and coming in straight on all this. But for me, it's just finding that differentiation within all this. But you're all right. There are some stolen bases there. Mea culpa.
Yeah, he reminds me a lot, results-wise, of like past years, Jonathan VR, where, yeah, there's some pop, there's some stolen bases, but you got to get around the strikeouts, and they're infuriating. But on a small slate, I can't ignore him in the middle of a lineup, and he's due. If you've been at the slot machine, gosh dang it, don't leave it. I'm on it.
Well, I speak things into power as I was reminiscing about how last night who was it? Framber Valdez was pitching last night. He had allowed one home run in his last 50. And I was like, sure, Ohtani doesn't hit that many. He hits a ton, but not when he's the starter. He gets one. And we go lefty with Jared Walsh. Congratulations to Delberto Mondesi on your combo meal, the home run and the stolen base today, to borrow a phrase from
Jack in a Bag
from Pepsi 7, the combo meal there from Nate Ravitch and Matt Berry. But let's talk about the Astros here. They're going against Jose Suarez. So I mentioned at the first half of the show, Astros are absolutely phenomenal against lefties. This year they have a 123 WRC plus. That means they're creating runs 23% more efficiently than league average. The next three best teams are all at 110, which is pretty darn good. They're still 13% ahead of those guys, which is just absolutely amazing. Suarez walks a few too many, doesn't strike out as many. He needs ground balls, double plays to get him out of the mix. He's not an intimidating pitcher, so I think this is a place where we want to target against him. Your little Yahoo hat tip here: Yulieski Gurriel, $14. He is sixth in the batting title race right now. The bottom of the order, we should see Chas McCormick and Martin Maldonado, the catcher. They're both at 7, and then you got Jake Myers at 11. You play those three guys at the bottom, you're getting access to a nice game, and it gives you the flexibility to do anything else you want with your two pitchers and with your stacks. That's how we look for low-owned plays. What are they going to do for us? They're not bad plays. You put them together for a little synergy. You could also play them as one-offs if you see fit. But on Yahoo, if you get down to those $7 players, the average batter is the good batters are 3 times that cost. So you put one or two decent $7 options in your lineup, and you're going to be much, much better off than the rest of the field. How are you feeling about the Astros, and perhaps we take one of their pitchers tonight?
Yeah, Garcia for sure. The Astros stack, I think we're going to see some changes in the top stacks tool today. I feel like I don't see Minnesota being the number 1 stack and then Houston being 6th or 7th. They put up a 10 spot on Ohtani yesterday. Not that Suarez isn't good. I don't see this happening. And I feel like why would I pay more for Buxton and Jorge Polanco than Altuve and Bregman? It just doesn't seem right. So I do think that tool will probably sharpen up as we go. It is really, really early. This is probably the earliest we've ever referenced this on a live show. So I guess bear with it. But the Astro stack looks really, really juicy to me. Suarez as just an atypical lefty. Astros just kill lefties. There's so many high-profile bats to target. Altuve, Bregman, Correa, Gurriel take advantage of the split. You mentioned McCormick. You might even see Jake Myers in the bottom of the order. And I don't hate Yordan Alvarez against lefties. And this is a weird spot because Alvarez actually hits lefties for incredible power. And so far, Suarez has allowed reverse splits power-wise to lefties. So maybe people skip him in the stack for the platoon disadvantage, but it's borderline an advantage here. You mentioned Garcia. I think Luis Garcia is definitely going to be one of my favorite pitchers to target outside of that putrid Marlins lineup in terms of strikeout percentage on this slate. This Angels lineup is going to strike out with the best of them or the worst of them, depending how you look at it. Only David Fletcher has a sub 22% K rate. So through and through, there's plenty of strikeouts strikeout potential out there in Minute Maid. So give me Garcia, give me the Astro stack. I'm not going to have any Suarez. Obviously, Shohei Ohtani is good at baseball, so if he gets you one, he gets you one. But the rest of this lineup, I'm probably going to be pretty trepidatious on grabbing because I will have a lot of Garcia. So give me Garcia. You good?
Yeah, my dog's trying to come in here, so I was trying to catch her to get her on camera, but she knows that's what's going to happen.
I was trying to stall. I didn't know if Tyler had the shot.
I've got to close the door. She just keeps coming in. No, it's kind of funny. So I was trying to trick her with I had an empty bag of potato chips there.
Oh, that's mean.
Which she likes, but she's like, no, I know this is a trap. So, but now she keeps nosing the door open. So when you guys see this door swing into frame, it's her. Just whatever. It's going to be what it's going to be. All right. Back to the task at hand here. Next one, we have Boston at Chicago. I don't think we haven't announced Boston pitcher yet. We do have Dylan Cease going for the White Sox. He's a tournament option, does have some nice strikeouts. Going against Boston, never an easy task, but we saw that JD Martinez was a late scratch last night. It was a twinge or a tweak or a strain or something, but he could be out again today. That definitely is a detriment to their lineup. I believe it's Xander Bogaerts is back, at least active, off of the COVID list. I didn't look at that box score again this morning, and I went to bed relatively early last night because I have 2 shows today and 4 articles to write. So I needed my beauty sleep. So I can't remember if Bogaerts played last night, but how are you feeling about Boston? Are you okay with Dylan Cease as a tournament option here?
Yeah, if he's going to get a little bit more watered down of a Red Sox lineup, sure, he does have strikeout potential. I mentioned at the top of the slate breakdown, the majority of the ownership on the slate is going to grab onto Charlie Morton, and I do think Luis Garcia has a chance to go up. So our top pitcher tool has Dylan Cease at a 23% chance of being a top 2 pitcher and just a 12 to 13% ownership. So there is leverage to be had, free leverage to be had versus our probability of him being a great play. So yeah, I'm in on Cease. He's traded me well the last couple starts when I've targeted him. As far as the Red Sox go, I don't know that I understand how it's possible for them to be this staggered in COVID cases. Like, you would think it would all happen at once, but it seems like every couple of days another one trickles through. And Chris Sale was the most recent one, and that's why we don't know who's pitching today.
Hunter Renfroe has a theory on this. Have you seen his theory?
I have not, because I feel like it's a dangerous. He says
Major League Baseball told the Red Sox to stop testing and just treat symptoms, and Major League Baseball is like, no, we would not say that. And I think as a Yankees fan, you can attest that they would not say that.
No, I don't think. Yeah, I don't think that's. I think they came out with like some quick trying to correct that, but yeah, it's a dangerous thing for him to say. So one of the guys that could possibly throw baseballs today against the Chicago White Sox, his name is Connor Siebold. They got a couple guys on the taxi squad, probably more so than some other teams. So far this year in the minors, for 2 teams, he's got 47 innings pitched, has allowed just a 193 average, a 106 whip, and he's been a fly ball pitcher with 56 strikeouts in 47 innings. Now, it's very, very, very rare that the minor league numbers transfer to the majors 1-to-1, even more rare against a great team like the White Sox. So I'm not at all thinking about playing him. I don't even know if he's in the pool, but I just wanted to at least put that out there that Siebold is one of the names that is attached to potentially starting today, and he may not. It just may be a full bullpen game. The White Sox have an implied total of 5.4, so they're one of the highest run totals on the slate. And if I'm looking at it correctly, I think they might be the highest. Yeah, they're the highest run total. So that puts them as a pretty plausible stack. You can't really isolate any metric 1-to-1 saying, oh, they should hit homers off of this guy, because there's a real chance they don't get 2 at-bats against the same pitcher. You're just kind of banking on talent. And for the most part, this is one of the cheapest incarnations of the White Sox lineup I've seen all year. Only Yasmani Grandal, the catcher, is over 5K. So Luis Robert, Jose Abreu, Moncada, Eloy Jimenez, there's plenty of very viable bats on both sides that aren't going to break the bank and probably going to be easy paths to get to those Luis Garcia, Charlie Morton Morton lineups, which will probably end up being one of the more trendy approaches. White Sox are right above the Astros in our top stacks tool, and they are listed as the second highest owned projected stack. So you're going to get pretty negative leverage if you think that the Boston bullpen can hold them at bay. And I think Alex Cora is pretty smart that he's going to have the right pieces in the right lanes, but it gets pretty, it's riskier to depend on five guys having their best stuff than it is two or three. So I will have some White Sox stacks, but on this slate, if that's the easiest way to get different, meaning that's the most obvious negative leverage spot, I think in match fill tournaments, I'd probably stay away and hope that Cora can hold the White Sox at bay.
All right. Five guys bringing their best stuff. Five guys always brings their best stuff. I highly recommend the Cajun fries. Not spicy, but savory. Very good. Very good. We need Five Guys as a sponsor. That would be awesome.
Bruh, that's whenever, like, it's usually like up and coming sites sponsoring. Whenever a food company gets involved, it's game over, dude. It's like, then we've made it.
That's what we need. That's what we need. All right. Asking about free content. Why, yes, we have free content. If you follow Awesemo_COM on Twitter, you would already know that the free content of the day is the Awesemo MLB Top Stacked, my favorite tool for baseball, probably our best tool that we have for baseball. And then we also have the NFL Week 1 player projections. I have a feeling those are going back behind the paywall tomorrow because we usually don't have anything free out there on Sunday, but you can jump on in and get those right now. Nothing too dramatic should change between now and tomorrow because we know pretty much everything that everybody's doing because most everybody should be relatively healthy. You want to get the really good stuff? Check out the NFL Express package this week for $1. Has all of our Showdown content. We're also doing DK Tiers content as well. That has been a long time honey hole of mine for NFL DFS. And now we're giving away the good stuff for $1. Come on, Alex, you're going to cost me money. Promo code DAC gets you the NFL weekly 1 week express package for $1. You're crazy not to check it out. For those of you who are seam heads, use the promo code MLB live before lock at 25% off the MLB weekly package. All right, let's continue on here because we're going to have to make room for more free content. The 6 shows coming after us, including the college football DFS live before lock show. They will be next up. Will be Matt Kajeski and Ben Rasa covering DFS and wagering. Check that out. Those guys really know their stuff. Our next game here, Cincinnati at St. Louis. Luis Castillo been pretty good recently. He's got a 4.20 ERA right now, but coming off a miserable first 2 starts, he has righted the ship over the last month and a half, going against St. Louis, who are institutionally, contractually obligated to not be great against righties because they insist on having a mostly righty lineup. I don't know why they're still doing that, but here we are. On the other side, you have Miles Mikolas, sponsored by Ricola cough drops. No, too bad those commercials aren't on. You will get that joke, but nobody else will. But we have Miles Mikolas there. He is pesky. He is a bulldog, not the Oral Hershiser type of a bulldog, but still a bulldog. I don't really want to pick against him. I really do like Castillo in this one. What do you want to do on these sides? Would you look to any of the Cincinnati bats, or is this mostly Castillo for you?
So also while you're in Alaska.
Oh, no.
And this is like short sample, probably anecdotal more than anything else. But we say that the Cardinals are bad against righties, and then Corbin Burns, Brandon Woodruff, and Freddie Peralta all go out there and get smacked by the Cardinals. So those guys are due for regression.
You cannot have an entire team's rotation all having career years and not have something like that lineup.
I mean,
next,
yeah.
Okay.
Castillo, 24% K rate on the season to righties. We can really focus on that. Cardinals at best will probably have 3 lefties, more likely just 2. You might catch like a large new bar, Matt Carpenter or something making a crazy appearance. But Tommy Edman, Dylan Carlson are the 2 you can lean on. Goldie and Arenado have been a problem. Yadi Molina shown a little bit of power lately. But yeah, Castillo in Busch Stadium seems like a positive park. Should have a positive lineup to take advantage of his 1-4 K rate to righties. On the road, that home run per 9 is still higher than you might think it would be outside of Great American Ballpark at 1.4, and his road xFIP has been over 4. So I don't get the warm and fuzzies on Castillo, but I like it. You would be remiss to not have maybe 20% exposure to him, just because it seems like a good chance that he has a shot at 20 plus DKP, and that dog will probably hunt on this slate more often than it won't. But I would definitely have some Cardinals head stacks in my personal lineups just because of what I've witnessed, what these eyes have witnessed in the last couple of weeks.
Since the beginning of August, I'm going to give you 41 days here. The St. Louis Cardinals are 8th against righties, 105 WRC plus. They are still striking out about 22% of the time. That's about what they are on the season against righties. Their power has come up, a 170 in this time frame. On the season, they're at just 150. That's a bottom 5 mark there. So perhaps a little sequencing. They're not horrid like the Pirates or the Rockies, but institutionally, you think of the Cardinals always in the mix for the playoffs. Best fan in baseball, and great stadium to play in. I was out there for the All-Star game way back in the day. That was a lot of fun. But we don't discount them enough. Is my take. They can't, at a 90% WRC plus, they can just reach up and get you. That's going to happen. I'm a little surprised it happened that many times against the Brewers, but literally the entire Brewers staff is having a career year. But duly noted. Thank you for correcting me.
5 starts against the Cardinals, averaging 12 fantasy points a game. I'm scared. Hold me. That's all I'm saying.
Is that scared or scared? I think you're scared.
Just a little scared here. So I can't see myself playing Castillo without a little bit of hedge life. Miles Michaelis, is he just coming back? I feel like I haven't actually.
He said two starts back. Okay, probably be good for my guess is about 80 pitches today.
He threw 90 against the Dodgers on the 6th, so we might live at 90 to 100. Has not really excelled in terms of the strikeouts or the fantasy point output. So I'm probably leaning more towards looking at the Reds' bats here. Michaelis, even when he is stretched out, not really a strikeout guy, just a 7% swing and strike rate this year, sub 10% in 2019. So you're going to dare guys like Naquin, Votto, Moustakas to make contact. Castellanos might cost. Oh, I can't say that. Never mind. But yeah, I think the Reds are awfully cheap, all things considered, knowing what their upside is. Maybe outside of Grand American Ballpark, that upside dips down a little bit, but I think they're pretty decent value outside of Castellanos, Votto, and Moustakas. We're looking at a sub 4K overall stack, and in our value rating, we have them at a 16.2% top value, second to just the Kansas City Royals. So I like the Reds more than the pitchers in this game, but I don't think that's a stretch for me.
All right. Next game, we got 3 to go here. So we'll get our hustle on. We got about 10 more minutes. We have Eliseo Hernandez going into Atlanta, taking on the Braves, and Charlie Morton. Charlie Morton in his age 37 season has been looking pretty good. I think he's on our short list of pitchers today. Eliseo Hernandez missed a chunk of the season here. He is definitely a good pitcher. He is a budding ace. Miami is not going to push him too much. Not the best of matchups for him today, but I'm not really ready to roll out the Atlanta hitters. For me in this one, it's mostly going to be Morton. And then I could see Hernandez being about a 10 or a 15% capped guy on DraftKings as my SP2. I won't keep him out of my lineups, but I don't anticipate more than 7 to 10%. But I'll cap it at 10 or 15. Or allow 10 or 15, I should say.
Exactly. Man, I think the staggering decision on this slate is Charlie Morton. We got him projected at over 60% owned. And that is aggressive in baseball. Whenever a guy is that high owned, you have to do some thinking. Usually the math behind it will tell you to bet on the failure rates in tournaments to get that easy separation from the rest of the field. But then you look at this Marlins lineup. Yesterday we had the same self-meditation on Ian Anderson. Anderson came off back-to-back really rough games. But this Marlins lineup looks very much so like the Angels lineup when it comes to strikeout rates. And they have no power. No one on this team has a 200 ISO against righties since the beginning of last year. Jazz Chisholm and Jesus Sanchez would be the two, but they don't bat for a great average. Brian De La Cruz is their best hit for average guy. It's just a whole lot of not what you want. Everyone on the team a sub 10% barrel rate. So long story short, it's a nutty matchup. But you are wrestling with one of the more aggressive ownership projections that you'll see all year on a pitcher. So do with that as you may. Between me and you, EMAC, very rarely am I going to click a lock button, but at 8K, what a soft landing if Morton just has an average game, right? You'd almost take 18 as an SB2 from 8K, and we're not talking about a 10, 11K pitcher being 50, 60%. We're talking about 8K. So there's no reason he should be cheaper than Flex and Kluber, at least those two. So I can't really argue against the ownership, and it comes down to leverage. Do I want to hit the lock button, go all in, or do I just want to play the math here and hope that he gets yanked after 5 and it's just a really modest game? I'm leaning more towards playing this matchup. It's just so nutty.
All right, you mentioned the magic word there, Kluber. You are wearing the toque of your favorite team. You've got the battle for New York here. Corey Kluber going against Taijuan Walker. This one is in New York. It is is it still Citi Field these days? I said that yesterday. I couldn't remember. I thought it was. By the way, I've been to that's one of the, I think I've been to 7 stadiums. That's one of them. I got to see the Nationals play there. They lost 3-2. I forget which player it was, but I had 2 home runs for the Nationals, 2 solo shots. That apple coming up is pretty cool when somebody hits a home run. I will say that.
Yeah, that's one of my favorites.
I wasn't that far away from that. I was out there by the Shake Shack, so that was kind of cool. In any event, how are you feeling about the Kluber bits of? And I want to see. He was out for June, July, and August. He has 3 starts or 2. This will be his 3rd start. He came back August 30th, 68 pitches against the Angels. He went against Baltimore, 78 pitches. We're going to give him a bit of a mulligan there in those 7 2/3 innings. He does have 2 home runs allowed, 11 strikeouts, which we do like to see. How are you feeling about Kluber?
I faded him, faded him against the Orioles game. I haven't played Kluber, but maybe once this year. I think I did catch him on the no, but I think that last game he came out and struck out the side against the Orioles, and I was like, oh God. And I was happy because he did it as a fan, but then I was sad for DFS, and then the wheels fell off. So I don't understand the price. 8,700. I don't understand how he's progressively increasing in price. Because the stuff just ain't there. He's not throwing strikes. He's got more. His whip is through the roof since coming back. I don't trust him. I don't necessarily think that the Mets are locked in and there's some juggernaut offense, but I think they have a shot to be. We saw it yesterday against that Yankees starter versus and dipping into the bullpen. 3.9 implied run total for the Mets feels awfully doggone low. And I hate to say it, I would probably hit the over pretty fast. So maybe Odds Shopper will find us some good value on that. But I'm not on Kluber. Taijuan Walker is viable in the sense that some mediocre pitching has put up some really decent numbers against the Yankees. Yankees do have some strikeout potential in that lineup, but depending on what carnation of the Yankees lineup they do put out, because they don't have a DH. Yesterday we didn't see Stanton in the lineup, but we have seen him play the field. I gotta believe the Yankees got to go all in today to do whatever they can to get a win and get off this losing streak. So you're probably going to see that goal line jumbo package that has Stanton, maybe Voit, but I can't really see playing Voit over Rizzo. So I would have a little bit of Taijuan Walker. I wouldn't be too aggressive with it. I do think we have a 12% chance of being a top 2 pitcher, kind of in line with his ownership. So I'd have a little bit of it just playing the numbers here. But the Mets, I think the Mets are better than the implied totals putting them as. And stack wise, man, 3% ownership. I'd be willing to double some equity and take a chance against Kluber not finding the zone and that bullpen being not great.
All right, equity. I love the financial terms. Arbitrage. Hey, let's arbitrage some value. That's one of the most misused phrases in DFS, but that's okay. It's okay. It's the thought that counts. You know where you can arbitrage some value? By playing on new sites. You know who's the new site? Jock Market. You know what they've done? Why they've turned daily fantasy sports into a stock market like instrument. You can buy, sell, or hold players during the games, arbitrage the value based upon their performance and the demand amongst other gamers. They are your investment. Check it out. They're the sponsor of this show. Use the promo code Awesemo. Get a deposit match up to your first $50. They're also going to be sponsoring another show today, one of our 3 NFL shows. Check that out with Gundacker's pal Greg Ehrenberg. He will be on that one. I'm going to be on one later with Aton. I haven't worked with Aton before. This should be fun. I get to be the analyst. He gets to be the host. This will be a good time. 3 NFL shows today. You got the college football DFS live before lock coming up next. You've got NASCAR today. And then, of course, we have the MLB live before lock as well tonight. NASCAR is today. You've got the Xfinity race later this afternoon. And then tonight you have their Cup race. Last 2 games here, kind of a fun 2-game slate for the late slate. You've got Humberto Castillo going on into Seattle here, taking on the Mariners. They've got Chris Flexen on the other side. I could not have been more wrong about a pitcher than I have been about Chris Flexen, who washed out of the league 3 years ago, went to the KBO last year, performed well. The Mariners gave him another chance. Oh my God. While he literally doesn't strike anybody out, he also does not allow home runs. 0.9 home runs per 9 innings this season. I don't know that we can trust him, but he's not the gimme, and people are still thinking he's a bit of a punching bag. I don't think people will go there tonight. Arizona a little bit better against lefties than they are righties, just a 3.7 implied run total, and that is with the DH. And then on our next game, of course, after that, you have Chris Paddock going against the Dodgers. Paddock has been somewhat injured this season. I think he is much worse than his numbers are indicating. I would like to take the Dodgers against him. We have 2019 NL MVP Cody Bellinger getting a few days off this weekend to clear his head. How do you go from the NL MVP to batting at the bottom third of the order to not playing, Gundacker? I don't know, but we're going to see Gavin Lux, who is near minimum across the DFS sites. You're also going to see Chris Taylor in the lineup. AJ Pollock is out. Taylor's worthy of being in the lineup, but now he's down at the bottom of the lineup. Don't you worry about that. He's seen a significant price decrease as well. But Lux and Taylor, with their multi-position fielding abilities, are going to be in the lineup through the weekend here with Bellinger getting the day off here. What do you like of our quartet of teams here? And then we'll talk about the amazing Walker Buehler next. But hit on the batters here first. Hit on the hitters. Boom. You see what
Yeah, I think you mentioned Flexen. He's not fun to play for fantasy because it doesn't strike people out. So he kind of eats innings, and that's kind of what they want him to do. But I know all those pitchers, I think Walker Buehler is the most viable one for me. I don't think I'm pitching against the Dodgers here with Chris Paddock. And I don't really think I'm taking shots on Castellanos or Chris Flexen. Flexen, I could see a range of outcomes where he eats 6-7 innings and can 2x his price point, but $400 less. There's Charlie freaking Morton, and I feel like Morton's bad game is Flexen's great game. So I am I'm in whoops. I'm in
boiling water. Let's change the subject. There we go. All right, cleared your head. What are you up to now?
I thought I sent a DM to Tyler, and apparently I put it in general chat. Whoops. So I was like, why didn't Tyler? And then I was like, why did Chris reply? How did he do that? Okay, so I didn't know if we were like racing the clock here. Yeah,
we have 4 minutes. We have 4 minutes.
Walker Buehler.
I just went and looked it up. They keep changing the time because we have so many shows and we're trying to bounce in and out of these. The times are adjusting. Just know we're on air for 7.5 hours today. Just tune into Awesemo YouTube channel.
Freaking marathon. Walker Buehler's my favorite play of the 4 games overall. I think his a lot of people kind of overestimate the Padres offense, but this series has just been must-watch television. It's pretty much playoff atmosphere. And Buehler has 3 starts against the Padres. Each one of those games has been mostly great. 28 DKP against them in his last outing. He's definitely a guy that can get you 30 DKP more than he doesn't. He does have a low ownership versus a guy like Charlie Morton and Luis Garcia, and that's because their matchups are a lot softer than the matchup of the Padres. But I wouldn't let that get me off of Buehler. I do think 30 DKP is a range of outcome for him, and we still have him at a 20% chance of being a top pitcher on the slate, and he's only a couple of percent over that, so he's not as negatively leveraged as a guy like Charlie Morton, who has dang near 30+%. So I do like Morton more than the field. If I was going to grab some bats here against Paddock, I'm leaning more towards the righties with a little bit of power for the Dodgers, but no one's out of play for me on the Dodger stack, and then just kind of some errant one-offs from the previous 2 games here. I think Castellanos has a little bit more of a power problem than lefties. So Crawford hit a bomb yesterday. Kyle Seager could do well. And then the Padres side is really just be Tatis and Machado day in and day out. I don't really get too creative with the rest of that lineup.
Yeah, Kyle Seager, just want to point out, he's just a couple RBI away from a career high. He does have 34 home runs, I believe. That's also a career high. Not too shabby for someone who is 34 years old. And Corey Seager's older brother, often forgotten in that mix. All right, that gets us to the end here. Do you have a home run call or two? Did you refresh the bomb detector, or do people need to chase you down on Twitter at Gundacker?
No, I've got some bomb calls. So on the early slate, I got Andrew McCutchen at the top. And then for this slate, trying to find a guy that's in this slate. On this slate, I got
Max Muncy.
Muncy looks good. I have
Yordan Alvarez.
Yeah, I do like Alvarez as well. Actually, Lane Thomas has a fun score too.
Ooh.
A 4.20 score, as you like to point out.
All right. Sweet. Puff, puff, pass. With that, we're going to pass on the baton to the next show. That is going to be Ben Rossa and Matt Kajeski taking you up to college football kickoff. DFS live before lock. Get in there. We have projections this year for college football, and they are phenomenal. That could be the next way to make a little extra scratch. You can follow Gundacker over there on Twitter at Gundacker. I'm at EMACDFS. And then, of course, it is Awesemo _COM. With that, shout out to Tyler, the producer. Good luck, gamers.